The pool was quiet for that time of day, the kind of quiet that exists only in places where people focus on rhythm and breath. Water reflected soft light onto the ceiling, and the steady sound of splashes created a calm, almost meditative atmosphere. She came there regularly, early enough to avoid crowds, to swim without distractions and clear her head before the day truly began. He had recently started coming at the same hour, not to socialize, not to impress anyone, just to build a routine that felt healthy and grounding. At first, they were nothing more than two strangers sharing the same space, moving in parallel lanes without paying attention to each other. They noticed each other slowly. She saw him first as an inconvenience, someone who swam just a little faster than she expected, occasionally forcing her to adjust her pace. He noticed her discipline, the way she never skipped a lap, the way her movements stayed controlled even when she was clearly tired. There was no instant attraction, no dramatic moment, just awareness. A nod exchanged when their lanes crossed, a brief smile when they both reached the wall at the same time. Small acknowledgments that grew familiar without intention. One morning, the pool was more crowded than usual, and the lifeguard asked them to share a lane. She hesitated for a second, then agreed. Swimming side by side felt different. They had to match speed, to be aware of each other's space, to adapt without speaking. It created a quiet connection, built entirely on cooperation. When the session ended, they rested at the edge of the pool, catching their breath. He made a small joke about how synchronized swimming might be next, and she laughed, surprised by how natural it felt. That was the first real conversation, short and light, but enough to break the invisible wall. After that, they started timing their swims without admitting it, stretching at the same spot, talking between laps. Conversations stayed simple at first: work schedules, favorite exercises, why they preferred mornings over evenings. Gradually, they became more personal. She talked about how swimming was the one place where her thoughts slowed down. He admitted it was where he felt most like himself, without expectations or noise. There was comfort in talking while wet hair dried and muscles relaxed, in a space that encouraged honesty through exhaustion. Their connection grew quietly, without pressure. Some days they talked more, some days barely at all, and both were fine. What mattered was consistency, the shared routine, the understanding that neither was trying to impress the other. One morning, as they walked out together into the cool air, towels over their shoulders, he asked if she wanted to grab coffee sometime, outside the pool, without goggles and lanes between them. She smiled and said yes, realizing that what started as shared water and rhythm had slowly become something warmer. They didn't meet in a dramatic way. No party, no accident, no perfect timing. Just two people moving through the same space often enough to notice each other, learning that sometimes connection isn't about sparks, but about flow. And just like swimming, it worked best when neither of them forced it, when they trusted the pace and let things develop one steady lap at a time. After that first coffee outside the pool, everything felt slightly different, as if the world had shifted just enough for them to notice. Seeing each other without wet hair, goggles, and the echo of splashing water felt strangely intimate, almost like meeting the same person in a new version. They laughed about it, about how unfamiliar yet familiar it was, and that laughter eased the quiet nervousness between them. Conversation flowed more freely now. Without laps to count or breath to control, they spoke about their lives beyond routine, about work that drained them, about goals that felt unclear, about the comfort of having at least one place in the day that felt steady. The pool, they realized, had given them a foundation built on calm rather than excitement, and that made everything else feel safer. They kept swimming together, not every day, but often enough that it became something both looked forward to. Some mornings they barely spoke, letting the water do its work, sharing nothing but rhythm and presence. Other days they talked for long minutes at the edge, legs dangling in the pool, voices low and unguarded. They learned each other's moods without asking, when silence was needed, when encouragement helped, when humor softened a heavy day. There was no rush to define what they were becoming. The connection deepened through repetition, through showing up, through choosing the same lane again and again even when others were available. Outside the pool, their time together expanded naturally. Walks after swimming turned into breakfasts, breakfasts into evenings spent talking longer than planned. They disagreed sometimes, misunderstood each other occasionally, but those moments didn't feel threatening. Just like in the water, they adjusted their pace, learned when to slow down and when to push forward. She realized she trusted him not because he promised anything, but because he was consistent. He realized he felt seen without having to perform. That kind of closeness didn't burn fast or loud. It settled in quietly and stayed. One morning, as they finished a longer session and stood drying off near the lockers, she said that swimming had taught her how to breathe through discomfort instead of fighting it. He smiled and said meeting her had done the same. The realization didn't need a dramatic response. It was enough to acknowledge it and move forward together. Their story didn't begin with fireworks or chaos. It began with water, routine, and patience. And it grew because neither of them tried to rush what was already flowing naturally, one steady stroke at a time.